We've got Nathan here, and we're looking at now the slap distribution, which is another form of distribution. The hit, the push, now we're visiting the slap. So Nathan, what are the things you're looking for when you're going to make that pass through those cones again with the skill of slap?
I'm going to try and keep my body nice and low over the ball, keep my balance, and I want my weight transferring through the ball. And I also want my hands nice and close together and a bit of a cock of the wrist as you come through, so that way you can change your angle at the last second if you need to.
What's your thoughts on, I was at the camp the other day and we had some younger athletes who had the hands apart, and the coaching staff suggested exactly what you said, closer together, but some of them still felt more comfortable like that. Would you support both ways, or would you have a preference?
I feel like you're going to get more power and more deception out of if you have your wrists together. That being said, if they're really, really uncomfortable with it, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But in the long run, I think definitely more power if your hands are together.
The other key point you mentioned there was the deception. Yeah. If those hands are apart, which you will demonstrate to the deception, it's hard to be able to use your wrist, and that was the key point. You can change the angle of the stick.
Yeah. Also, with your foot placement as you're stepping in, I like to have mine kind of in line about here with the ball, so that way I've got the full arc if I can put it anywhere kind of in that between my arms. Whereas if you're too far forward, you're very limited, you can only kind of put it that way. If you're too far back, you're not going to get the power. If I'm going to try and add deception to this, so send it at a bit more of an angle than normal, what I'd do is as I'm coming through with my hands, I'd open up my wrist a little bit and make contact with the ball that little bit earlier. So if I'm stepping through, I want to make it look like I'm going there, but I'm actually going to try and put it there. So if I do this, I step in and I go like that. So all I've done there is I've just opened up the face of my stick and cocked my wrist a little bit further back. So you're making contact with the ball at a bit more of an angle to send it that way rather than that way.
Just going on from Nath, we're talking about the slider with deception, and it's about where you actually make contact with the stick. And yet again, the other day we had a young group in and we were looking at trying to go flat, basically obviously 180 to the right. And the higher you get it up here, the better, because you're sort of in a position where you need to be past the ball, and Nathan's talked about that. He's highlighted it. So the position here, past the ball, you're coming, and then you've got to be able to open your wrist so it's going that way. So the higher you get it, the better. So it's there and it's that. You can see there, so you can coming forward and the ball accelerates out of there. Nathan was talking somewhere around here. So you need to experiment with it. The flatter you go, the higher you get it, the better, because you're coming through and you've got to whip it. So it's coming out that way. It's coming out that way. We've gone through the direct one, which Nathan demonstrated the 2 points there. We've just sort of seen the flatter the angle, the higher, and obviously these wrists that Nathan talked about, being able to accelerate the ball out. To make the contact with the direct one, Nathan was demonstrated sort of in about that area there.